All right, do we have anybody in cyberspace?
No participants besides us.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Please call now, call me back.
The first item on the agenda is to talk about the cleaning bid contract. I'm gonna postpone that without objection until Dougie gets here, so we can talk about, there's only two bids, the existing contractor and a new company that's bid. We've had a lot of complaints about the existing provider. So we'll discuss that with Dougie when he comes in. Item number 2 is to recognize outgoing Commissioner Roland Watson. I asked for this item to be put on the agenda because at our employee appreciation dinner, I did thank Robert for his many years of service to us. But the election hadn't been held yet. So it's sad for me to see both of you go. I really appreciated working with you both. I want for the record to reflect that I truly believe that both of you paid a personal and political price for your support for the new nursing home.
Yes, we did.
And
It was worth it.
you know, it was the right thing to do. We tried to do the right thing. To try to set and establish a program here that would outlast all of us for 50 years. The program still sits there. But I want the record to show that I believe that you both paid the dire political price for that. And I've enjoyed working with you both. And you've been great commissioners. And I'm just sorry to see you go. Not that I have anything against John or Joe, but it's just the facts. You know?
Just one quick thing, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the employees who you've diligently supported over the years. I thought, when Leo Assad passed, we never find employee advocates that, you know, joined George. But we certainly did with both of you, and the employees appreciate that tremendously. You know, there's been a number of years that I've been here when, you know, the commissioners weren't painted with the best of brushes, but you guys have resolved that. And it certainly makes my job and Chris's job much easier in those circumstances. So on behalf of the employees, I really appreciate everything that's been done.
May I just echo that sentiment? You know, I went through, in my only experience working directly for the Board of County Commissioners is with this body. And I feel as though I've always had an opportunity to come over and express what it is that I felt needed to happen. There were times in which we were aggressively supported in some of our endeavors over there, and that had to do with this group. And a lot of that is exactly what Mr. Bauer said, which is support of the staff and what we're trying to do to carry out the mission of the county and our small responsibility in that. So on behalf of the Department of Corrections and on behalf of the staff, I appreciate the character and support that I've been able to see in both public and in non-public sessions. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for what you do for Strafford County and what you do for the inmates there, the programs that you guys have put into place for them to be able to be successful when they leave that facility. That means a lot to me personally, because I think that gives them a second chance, and they certainly deserve that, or even a third chance. And the employees at the nursing home, they're the best. They really are. They do a lot for the residents there. They go above and beyond what their daily tasks are. I appreciate what they do. It's a horrible situation over there, and hopefully the next delegation will, Commissioner Flores in charge, will build a facility that's to the standard that it needs to be.
Yeah, so I want to thank George and Deanne. It's been a pleasure serving with you. it's been
100% of the time, maybe not, maybe 90%.
I mean, really, George and Ray made this position so easy. They do all the heavy lifting, so, it's been, I want to thank them and the entire staff. I won't get into names because I'll forget some, but we just have a, fabulous staff here. And it makes our job extremely easy and, I don't see this as being a victim of political for me, I've done 16 years. I think that's enough. I'm ready to move on. So I'm leaving here with a good taste in my mouth. I feel we accomplished a lot. And I think the county's in good hands going forward, and I know you guys will do great things in the next few years.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. I've got a couple of things I want to hand out. First of all, at the end of this is for you. I already gave Robin this flag, so I got for you. For your dedication and work for the people of Strafford County.
Aaron?
Aaron, where's Aaron?
Oh. I knew he was here for
Come
a
over
reason.
here. Up here, Robin, you get a picture with,
Aaron, you little sneaky devil,
yeah, he's hiding up there. I said, I thought Aaron was here. Where'd he go?
We went to hold till I take it.
We got some pictures.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, wow. Cool.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't give me help up on my arm. I just wanted to point you in the way of the camera.
Oh, yeah, that's your number.
Okay.
You were taller before, Bob.
And makes you, you don't know that. I'll make sure the pictures look okay in there. Because Deanna had me, nervous. All right, so this is for you as well, Deanna, one for you too.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. All righty. Now I get some.
Chair.
Chair.
George.
Okay.
He's looking for a place to sit.
Yeah, that's all right.
You gotta be careful.
I finally got a big girlfriend. At least I have one.
Well, I wish you both the best of luck
Mhm.
over the next upcoming year. I want to take an opportunity to address, the record as well, our appreciation to outgoing Chairman Schmidt, the current commissioner, for his leadership on the delegation over many, many years. Did a fabulous job. I appreciated his counsel. We worked very well together. It was a long time.
A long time. Well, I'm glad to have an opportunity to be recognized and to be here, because, it have been an unusual circumstance, 14 consecutive years as chair, but I never was in another county. So I never knew that how extraordinary this county really is, in the fact that we've had a long, continuous series of boards of commissioners, but also the staff that has served for such a long time, and the accomplishments of this county in terms of the leadership, but also the worker bees, to make a 50-year-old nursing home, for example, still award-winning, getting a rare honor of being 5-star over and over and over again, because this staff really cares about the people, and does the job, but also because it's a coalition of the willing people who are willing to do the job, to take care of the people, and the people of Strafford County, not just the people in the nursing home, but even the people in the jail and so forth. And that's the result of inspired leadership and teamwork on the part of the commission. And it was my privilege to be the chairman for the last 14 years, and 2 years before that, to see and to participate in this kind of colleague relationship, not I'm the boss and you're the peon, so get there, get out of here and go do your job or get out of here. No, it was a case of people that were willing to do the job and did it lovingly and caringly. So I salute all three of you for your role in that for your term, and George for many terms before that. And Ray, of course, at your right hand, making sure that the inspired guidance that you've provided would get carried out and executed. So the people of Strafford County have been blessed, and I hope that the new team will work as effectively together as you have. So thank you for the opportunity to serve with you.
Well, thank you, Peter. And thanks for your support over the years for the many, we made a lot of changes to how the government does business, which has been a personal, thing of mine. I spent my entire life in public office, my entire adult life, since I've been 18 years old. And I've always wanted to make government work for people. Well, people have a tendency in modern times to complain about government. Government's no good. It's all no good. We gotta throw it all out. Throw it out with the bathwater, our institutions are all horrible. The past generations didn't know what they were doing, but I learned, from past generations of the reasons why we're here and those functions at a very early age. And nothing's changed. Human nature hasn't changed. Sickness, illness hasn't changed. Crime hasn't changed. It's actually gotten a little worse. But instead of warehousing people, we've actually tried to do something about
Drug court, mental health
making a
court.
difference in people's lives, whether it be their changes we've made in the criminal justice system. The things that we've done for the sick, at Riverside, whether it be the SBU unit, which when Ray and I started that, it was the second one of its type in the United States. We were very early pioneers on dealing with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. There's just been so many things that we put in place. I can remember when Ray, we had a debate more than 30 years ago about tearing down the Arms House. And Ray and I stayed the Arms House along with Roland Roberge. We were gonna tear it down. Paul Dumont, a good friend, wanted to tear it down because he told me there was nothing good about that building. The memories of that building were horrible. And he just wanted to eradicate it from the face of the earth. And I said, well, we're tearing down a lot of history. If you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat it, as we all know. And there's been a lot of good things that have happened for a very, very long time. These things just didn't happen yesterday. All the changes took a lot of work and a lot of dedication by a lot of different people. And we had a team approach to all the things that we did. I've appreciated the support I've gotten from my colleagues. To go through these types of governmental changes is very difficult. And that's one thing I want to lend to Sean and to Joe, is that, you're going to be at the helm of a ship. Okay, ships of state don't mind their rudders very well. They have small rudders, big ships, small rudders. You can turn that rudder all you want, but that ship's going to keep going in a certain direction. It takes 2-3 miles for a ship to turn once you turn its rudder. Ships of state are no different. Governments are no different. It takes time, and it takes stability in order to accomplish those things. Without political stability, you can't accomplish it. It just can't be done. The ship will just keep moving. But anyway, Peter, with that much said, I wanted to hand you this plaque as appreciation of the commissions, your support and your leadership. Being the chairman of the delegation in 2011, moving forward. All right, Peter.
I've already got about 5 of these, and that's
What?
not plaques, but
The gavel.
gavels.
They're gonna give me a gavel when they bury me. But you over here.
Yeah,
Okay,
a little bit better.
Oh,
You're
okay.
supposed to be on this side.
That's great.
There you go.
You're not gonna get a really good picture of me.
Well, you're gonna,
That's not possible.
now when's your birthday, Pete? You're gonna be 87?
May 29th. Same birthday as John F. Kennedy.
Well, Mike's birthday is May 28th, and he always yelled at me because I was
Well,
gonna
you
wait for him to be born on the 29th because he wanted to be born on John Kennedy's birthday. Ever since he was little, said it was
We try one more, but I want everybody to look really happy.
really happy.
Sorry.
All right, it's all right.
Sorry about that.
You wanna let's get Deanna and Robin in this picture too.
Come on, Ron.
Yeah, 'cause it's gonna be on the
Well, I
website.
certainly wanna have them in the picture because it's all of us together. Right, that's for sure.
Everybody
All
smile.
right.
How's that, Aaron?
I'm loving it.
Take 1,000
You
pictures
want
to get one good one.
Just you two?
That's fine, we can do that. Peter wants it in his scrapbook.
I want one more with you and
All right,
yours.
just smile, will you? Yeah. Peter never met a camera he didn't like. There you go.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan.
And let's talk about-
Could I just mention two things, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
regarding, Representative Schmidt? 14 years, this is the most this is the best speech he's ever made in 14 years.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I want to get it on record, and because these things are on YouTube, and will be on, and therefore on for infinity, that when the time is right, the hat is mine. That's all I have to say. So,
Some of
loves
you,
that
some of
hat.
you don't know, but I've got a hat that I bought in Moscow, Russia, about 50 years ago. It must be more than that.
And it's warm.
In the GUM store, GUM, you know, the big store right across the Red Square from the Kremlin. And it's made from an animal called a nutria.
A nutria.
That's what it's called, nutria,
I
N-U-T-R-I.
never heard of it. What is
I think
that?
that's Russian.
It's an animal.
A
A
muskrat,
nutria.
right?
It's like a muskrat.
No,
Is it?
Right.
Is it?
And it's a big, high, tall hat and so forth, and
Must be a heavy
Ray-
muskrat.
Ray has been lusting after that hat.
I saw you campaigning with it at one point when I was driving through Dover, and since then, that happens really.
Gave me a lot of crap about it, but the thing is, he admitted that he was hoping that I would die sooner rather than later, so he could wear it before he gets put online in his coffin.
Yeah,
But I'm not ready to,
Not ready to pass it on.
still waking up going like, God, I made it through another night.
Well, that's the story with all of us, Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, it's on record now, so
yeah,
I'm happy.
All right,
that's right.
so let's move on to talk about the budget. We got the budget.
No, there's we can go back to,
Oh, cleaning bid, I'm sorry, yeah.
yeah, we can go back.
All right, we got Dougie here. All right, Doug, so what's going on with this cleaning bid, brother?
Well, we had two interested bidders. We had Upcountry Cleaning Services and the current vendor that we have now. Current vendor came back in at the exact same price that they're charging us now. Janet, did you get copies?
Dispersed everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a couple examples of the types of issues that we're dealing with the current vendor, and take your permission to accept Upcountry's proposal. Looks like they're about $1,000 more a month. But they seem to be a much better professional outfit, and they've made guarantees that they would have the staff. I'm not sure what's going on with the vendor that we have right now, but the place isn't being cleaned, and Janet's dealing with it almost daily. Complaints from tenants and from folks who work here.
Well,
I've tried, excuse me, I'm sorry. We've tried check sheets, we've tried,
I've seen the check sheet.
yeah, we've tried a lot of things. It's gone on for almost a year now.
What's
And
the
it hasn't-
what's the amount of money we're talking about? I'm gonna find it.
13,000. Give me 1 month.
Monthly?
in the new one. This is the
Right, yeah,
current.
yeah. So the terms of the contract the same as the last one?
Their proposal is comparable to the one that we have now.
In terms of the time frame, and can you terminate in 30 days if you're not satisfied?
Correct.
That's the same.
Yeah, I've tried to work with them for a while to avoid termination, but I think it's time.
Well, certainly, years ago, not to bring up any history here, but years ago, we had our own staff. But it's still cheaper to do this than it is to have our own staff. We had our own staff, we had one individual on each floor, okay, which is their proposal. And a supervisor. If you put 4 people on the payroll, just to pay their health insurance cost would be equivalent to this, so. I don't have any objection to trying to vendor, even if it's going to cost us a little bit more, based on the number of concerns that have been brought to my attention and the commissioner's attention to on a weekly basis for a while. It's been long now, a couple of years, I'm over time.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
No, I don't see the contract, but I would just
We
make sure that you're not locked into a certain number of years, and that if you're not satisfied, you can
Right,
go out to bid again, like you did in this case, so.
let's make sure that that's in there, Raymond, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Any questions from the new commissioner? No?
I move to accept the bid from Upcountry Property Services.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. During the discussion, not hearing any, okay, the chair will call a question, I'll do a roll call, Commissioner Watts.
Yes.
Commissioner Roll?
Yes,
Myself, yes, that vote unanimous. So when is this gonna be effective?
I'll reach out to them today.
We got 30-day notice to the other people, right?
Yeah, we'll reach out and, coordinate the services, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right.
You'll take care of that, Tony.
Forward the contract to us when you get it, right?
Yes.
All right. Great.
Janet, you're now basically singing hallelujah.
Yeah. I'll wait 30 days and then,
Okay. I'll have lunch with you.
okay.
Yeah. Can't help but think about the guys we used to have to clean the building many moons ago. They were all old timers and they were very conscientious. Today, it's hard to get people to do those jobs.
Yeah.
We need a few more Guatemalans, I think, Joe. There'll be people who are willing to do some work.
And you're not the first one to think that
I know,
or say it.
yeah, true. All right, so Raymond, let's start talking about the remaining budgets that we have left.
Give them marked out, Tony.
It's just what's on.
Just revenue, right? Just on top. Revenue estimates?
I think everything else has been acknowledged.
Okay,
Yeah, Peter has.
so let's go through the,
My chair.
was the fees for the deputies, I'm looking on the list here, the big number, ticket items. We did get a rate increase, right?
Last year, Mr. Chairman.
Right,
So we're focusing on something different, obviously. Our focus this year is on boarding revenues.
right. So the adjustments made to Riverside's rate, that's all reflected in here.
Yes, sir.
What did you buy, how many did you budget for?
Pretty much a full capacity minus unit 3. I have
Yeah,
the backup, Mr. Chairman, is attached to that document, and you'll see in the backup.
oh, I get it, yeah, okay.
I'm hoping for, if you want to look at just Riverside's backup, Mr. Chairman, I'm hoping for a larger rate increase than the 310 a day, on the SBU.
Right, we're still waiting in here.
Well, I
You talked to Henry.
again, and this is what he's come up with for a suggestion, is to look at the original differences when the SBU was started, and if he does that, I think that might put him into a cardiac arrest.
Right.
So I haven't, I didn't increase it that amount of money, because in the legislature's wisdom last year, they cut a lot of revenue out, so I don't know how he's gonna come up with the money to,
Okay,
fund.
I like it. Just for. You know, generally speaking. Ray, they're putting together the revenue estimates along with the superintendent, at least on in the jails issues. We should talk about that a little bit because. The nursing home revenue is gonna run relatively flat. But we also know that the legislature is a minimum of 750 million in the hole, maybe up to $1 billion, because I think their 750 number is, I just think they're lying to us.
You're right,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
It's
No?
500.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's way more than that.
I don't, well, you.
I've seen the numbers. We
Yeah.
already worked on the budget.
You've seen-
Good. I mean, hopefully that means none of it's passed down to the counties.
Right, some of that will be,
Oh, will be, sure.
all that gets shifted down. AOS is supposedly gonna plan somewhere between 6 and 10% shifted Medicaid costs to the county. At least that's what she's been.
Well, just so you know, Mr. Chairman, if that happens, then I'll have to call the delegation back.
Yeah.
Because I funded it flat as it currently is.
Okay.
So if that's the case, if that's the number, you're talking,
Well, we won't know that till June. anyway,
no, but
Because they won't pass the budget till they, because they're gonna.
what I'm saying is just to give you, just to equate that to the tax rate.
Yeah.
And, 6 to 10% is, you're talking about 1.5% to, if you're going to 10, you're talking about 3%, well, not quite.
Yeah.
2 3/4. So beyond, so that'll just give you an idea of what the pass down would be.
Right.
And you take half that for this year, obviously, because it would start in July.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the bigger issue where we're gonna try to make up some of the revenue, which is in the boarding operations.
And there's backup in there for that, Mr. Chairman. And the superintendent and I worked on that.
Okay. What's that, I mean, what kind of. I mean, you must be a budget to start, there was March 31st or April.
April
May?
1st.
April 1st,
You'll see on the estimate of revenue for House of Correction,
yeah,
90 days at,
oh, I see it, 94, yeah.
and then,
75.
yeah.
Gotcha, all right. Well, that's certainly, if we take the president at his word and everything I've seen from coming out of ICE through the National Association of Counties reports to me and such. Just, if you just think of the logistics, as I mentioned to the delegation, the last meeting. Holman's talking about going after the first 600,000 people. 600,000 people that have committed crimes in the country that have not been deported yet. Now, just the logistics alone of trying to deport. Never mind trying to deport 30 million, let's talk about, or 20 million, or whatever number you wanna pick, just the first phase, which is somewhere between 600 and 1.4 million. They estimate about 1.4 million that have actually committed some form of crime in the country that the Biden administration needed to deport. Now, Obama, we had good years here during the Obama times because Obama deported more people than Trump ever thought of deporting. Prior to this new route, this new declaration. Sure, new declaration, what he's going to do. Holman was on news programs here last week saying there was 600,000 they were going to go after in the first round. That's a lot of people. you're gonna house them, you're gonna have to go through court systems, there's expenses involved in getting flights to other countries, there's, agreements with the other countries that still have to be worked out when they drop those people back off. So it's gonna take some time, but I think Strafford County is uniquely in a position where we could take advantage of that, which is what I mentioned to the delegation back, 3 months ago. So, I know that the superintendent spoke to, ICE, and the US Marshals, which we have a long-term standing relationship with. And based on those daily rates that they say they're willing to pay, is what we're basing the budget on. Which is I don't think it's a shot in the dark, because I'm taking these people for the federal government for their word. They're saying they're gonna do this, or they're gonna need facilities. And you just can't open up military facilities to do these types of things, because that's, if the Supreme Court says you can't do that, they're gonna have, they had a bunch of detention centers that were shut down during the Biden administration, down south, that they're talking about reopening, but that's still not gonna be able to house the estimated 600,000 people they're going after. And there's a lot of dynamics to that, because what people don't get is that ICE doesn't have their own army. ICE relies on a lot of local law enforcement, county sheriff's departments, and certainly down south, but in some of the northeast communities, you got local PDs that work with ICE. Some do, some don't. They came out a few days ago and said that the first city they're targeting is Chicago. And then New York will be next. I don't know how that's all gonna shake out in the system, but there's a system here. There's a process and a system. I just want to make sure that Strafford County is uniquely positioned to be able to take advantage of this unfortunate policy decision, but those people that we house that were criminals, nothing people don't really understand is that when they commit a crime in our country, beyond the crime of being here illegally, right? If they commit a crime and they're adjudicated in courts, what our courts generally, what they usually do is deport these people. That's part of their sentence, is to leave the country. So people don't really understand that. They think that, then we're gonna put them in jail. Well, you're not gonna put them in jail here. You're gonna try to put them and deport them to other countries. Go back to their country of origin. So you've got, like as I mentioned, 600,000 of these people nationwide that they're gonna take the first crack at, but they don't have an army to do this with. So they're gonna rely on a lot of local law enforcement to help them identify those folks. And half the countries already said they won't do it. And so there's gonna be a time here, we're gonna go through some form of political frustration if the government holds back federal resources to those communities as a result of it. I don't know what Trump's gonna do with that. We don't know, but we're at least guessing that we'll be in a position. We used to house these types of people. We still house these types of people. Our numbers used to be greater. So it's not anything that we haven't experienced before, number one, and number two, with the recent pay raises that we've given, we're hoping we're gonna have enough staff to be able to do this.
How long do they get housed for while they're waiting to go to court?
It depends
If it's ICE, it depends on where.
where.
A lot of times it depends on where they're being deported to.
Yeah.
There's obviously more flights to Mexico than there would be to a country in South Africa, as an example.
Right.
Some of the ones, Chris, go ahead.
We had an inspection in September with Office of Detention Oversight, and one of the things that they asked is what the average length of stay is. The average length of stay for our ICE detainees, and this is back in September of last year, was about 67 days. That's how long that they would stay in there, but that sometimes fluctuates. And a lot of that has to do exactly with what the county administrator is saying. It's a lot easier to get somebody to go to Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico than it is to take them to Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan, because we don't have diplomatic relationships with those governments. So that has to be done through treaties with other governments that are willing to take an individual from there. In addition to that, the other point that I wanted to make is that, Commissioner McGlaris was talking about individuals who are ordered deported, and that is in fact, the case. Where it sometimes gets hung up is if somebody from the Ukraine commits a crime here, for example, and they're ordered deported, they then have the ability to file a legitimate fear claim about going back to the Ukraine. And sometimes that voluntary deportation then gets hung up because of the.
Political side,
Because of
that's
the.
for political
Yeah,
asylum. That's
exactly,
what
because of changes in the country in which they, is their origin and what is happening, there. And a lot of times, that's what we're seeing, is that people from either higher, we have a lot of populations from Honduras and from Guatemala and from, Mexico. And a lot of times they'll consent to being deported, and then after their incarceration, they'll say, well, there's a cartel problem now there. And I don't want to go back there for legitimate fear of dying because either they testified against, some type of drug, charge that they had, or they provided significant information. And so that also, puts a delay in the process. There are in fact some people who serve their sentence and then they're deported, and it goes relatively smoothly. But, speaking from my observation, those are very few and far between, so.
You'd rather stay here in jail than would
Yep.
be to go home and murdered.
And to give like a snapshot of the working environment that's there are some people who honestly believe that if they assault somebody while incarcerated, they'll be able to remain in custody in the United States to have their case adjudicated. And it's a really easy way for someone to prevent them from having to be, deported back to their country. And so, I'm gonna go ahead and knock on wood here, but that's stuff that we've either, intercepted in communications back and forth. So, the environment that Strafford County Jail, is, I think that the staff that work over there do an exceptional job of, on how they interact with the inmate population. But it's one bad apple
Bad
away from turning the hard cider into vinegar, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, I don't have any objection to the revenue figure you come up with. We're talking about potentially $12 million in revenue in total. Which will go a long ways for us to help offset the tax increase. We would, well, I don't know. We're still working on those numbers on the caps in the cities. You're never gonna meet the cap in Middleton because that is just that's just a fantasy. That's just, they get 2% cap up there. There's no, that's.
You know, the 2% is for their own operation, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Not the county's operation, not the,
Was the county exempt in their cap?
No. not according to the.
Right,
Not according to what I read from the annual report, from the minutes of the meetings in the annual report.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
No, okay, well, let me see if I understand this correctly. So on April 1st, the rate will go up to 165, is that what we're saying?
That's what we're projecting.
Projecting, right?
Your project, so that's not inked yet.
No, sir, it's
No.
not.
And how close are we, do you think?
Well, we've submitted an application that more than justifies that rate. We've spoken to the appropriate people who have agreed to support that rate. So, I'd say we feel pretty comfortable about it. Can I guarantee it? No. But I think like a lot of our revenues, it's a very reasonable estimate.
They're also talking about having Congress appropriate, was it 650 billion would be to meet, to actually fund this deportation process in its entirety.
Yeah, the other thing, Mr. Chairman, it's not dissimilar in some ways to Riverside. I mean, I know what the rate is January 1st. I don't know what the rate's gonna be July 1st.
Right,
If the legislature in their wisdom cuts the amount of money dedicated to Medicaid, our rate could decrease.
right.
I don't know what, with the shortfall, whatever it is, with the shortfall that has been projected, you know, I'm historically, nursing home rates are something that the legislature has goofed with historically, and the only difference now is it's at the point where private nursing homes are on the verge of bankruptcy. And whether or not, you know, that is something that the legislature is willing to tackle, I guess it's up to the legislature.
They are conscious of it. They are conscious of the private nursing homes having a very difficult time. We worked with that last term, and that was one of the things we tried to protect.
Yeah, I'm hoping that continues, because now, you know, the revenue shortfall's gotta come from somewhere. I didn't, as you noticed, I didn't budget for an increase in Riverside's revenue as of July first, when normally I would have, understanding that, you know, the dilemma the state's in. So if we do get an increase July first, hallelujah.
Right?
I think it's more likely we get a decrease than an increase, just from looking at the numbers. But, I just kept it flat. We do have friends in the legislature, you know, who, have worked with the Association of Counties to indicate you know, a support for a flat cap on our contribution to Medicaid. But what that translates to, or if there's any increase beyond, current numbers, that means that the state takes on that responsibility if the county's cap is flat. So I don't know how willing the state's gonna be to take that responsibility on when there are some number of hundreds of millions. I suppose when you start talking about hundreds of millions, it doesn't really matter if it's 500 or 700 or, you know.
Yeah.
It's a serious, it's a serious issue. And sometimes it gets, you know, and this is just me pontificating, Mr. Chairman, but you know, there's no openness in the legislature. You testify on a bill and there's no additional hearings, and all of a sudden the bill's totally different than what it was when you testified on it. And then they have a committee of conference that makes these things go together, and I would venture to say, and this is no offense to you, Representative Schmidt, or when you were Representative Petrie, or Representative Watson, or Representative Rollo, or Representative McGlarris. I think that there's a lot of things that go on in a committee conference that you have no idea what went on to make things equal out. And yet your party encourages you to vote in a certain way. So I'm just going based on 38 years of experience.
It's all you can do, really.
That's all I can do.
And you know, the back of the budget is a trope. It balances on the front page, but on the back of the budget, it says that you gotta cut this and cut that and cut that and cut that.
Yeah, we have no idea.
We have no idea.
Well, that's
Back of
happened
the
through,
budget
that's
is-
happened through
there's a black
Democratic
hole.
and Republican administrations.
Oh, yeah, it's not unique.
Oh, no, it's
not unique.
not related to any party whatsoever.
No,
It's
it's
just
just the
a
nature of
reality
how we do
of 38
business.
years.
Yeah.
Well, you got three things in the budget, right? Oh, not in the budget, but are in the background. You got a new jail, 600 million at least.
Hmm.
You got YDC settlement, that's,
Yeah.
who knows what
Right.
that's gonna
$50 million,
cost,
$1 billion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
you know, and what was the other, there was one other thing that, I was thinking, but, you know, those are big items.
Big items.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you
And it's real, and they're real
And you
too.
have to deal with them.
And YMC. Yeah.
Yeah, and the YDC settlement is now, I mean, in the sense that
Oh,
a
the other
number
one
of
is, education.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
a
it.
number of the YDC issues
Which doesn't belong here at all.
a number of the YDC issues have already gone to trial. You know, and are scheduled to go to trial.
Absolutely, and we've seen some decisions already.
I know a couple of my good friends in Dover who went to YDC that got a pile of money.
Well, we've had inmates that
Whatever
have
they
got,
got, they should get double or triple that, because that place was a hellhole when I was there.
You know,
They
about
never
30 years ago,
Completely ignored it.
and when I was mayor of Dover, when I was up here too as well. When I first became president of all the county commissioners statewide, I proposed that, because back then the counties paid for juvenile delinquency, that I wanted the counties to have 3 facilities that they would construct and eliminate YDC. Because the counties at the time paid for juvenile delinquency. Had they, again, history being teacher, had they had done that, okay, not saying that they wouldn't have had the problems they had, but we either had a different system. Because we were shipping everybody to the Sununu Center, which used to be the old reform school. And they ended up naming that the Sununu, which is fine. But what happened was that all the programming that we had back then disappeared. Okay, once the state took it over from us, we had a ton of programming that helped juvenile delinquency out, and it disappeared. The money disappeared for it all. Okay, and then we went down the path of the Sununu Center. It's shucking and jiving back and forth. But
I don't know how happy Governor Sununu is to have his name associated with that place.
I was pretty happy when it was happening.
And Nick Tumpus was there during, he was Commissioner of Health and Welfare, when they did through all this stuff. And I had a meeting with, at the time, Commissioner Helms. Funny, I think Ray and I had been through what, 10 HHS commissioners, Ray? At least 10?
When I get a call from then Governor Shaheen and asked me to apply for that job, I said, well, what happens after you leave? I said, because no commissioner, other than Commissioner Tupas, who was a holdover, stayed there for more than 5 years. I was like in my 40s at the time, and I said, great, what do I do after 5 years? So I said, thank you, Governor, for the consideration, but no thanks. Because and if you go to the Brown building in the past, they've taken these pictures down, by the way.
They took the pictures down?
Yeah, every commissioner of Health and Human Services used to be lined the wall. So I think they had a choice, either to build a new wall or take the pictures down.
Yeah.
Because they never lasted more than, it's the worst job in the state.
Yeah, it is.
It's the absolute worst job in the state.
Yeah.
That's the worst budget in finance too.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just.
Cause I almost got, they were gonna put me in DHH,
Yeah.
Division 3.
Division 3, yeah.
I said, I won't serve.
Yeah.
In Division 3.
Feel that.
Division 2
there's never been enough money, no matter what, and then there's an accumulative effect over the years of certain things that have occurred that, money doesn't grow on trees.
But I guess if you don't fund it right, then you end up with YDC. I mean, you end up with a YDC settlement of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Exactly.
Right.
They didn't take care of those children.
And
Not taking care of them.
and they're not insured. I mean, they're self-insured.
Self-insured, right, they're big enough.
So they never put aside, when you're self-insured, there's the temptation to not adequately fund a self-insurance plan and hope that things work out. And then after a few years, when you don't have any suits, you say, oh, maybe we can take a little bit of what we've been putting aside every year. And that's a temptation, and that's, that's a reality, right? When it comes to self-insurance that we look at because we considered self-insurance for health insurance, and you could have a good year and make out just fine, or you could have a bad year and you could get hosed.
Yeah.
Two things that YDC had was a library and leg irons
Yeah.
for those kids.
They didn't even know how to read.
I know, they had comic books. Seriously.
So Riverside's revenue was based on the first 6-month rate, correct?
That's correct, sir. I did not.
Okay.
Normally, I would put in some amount of an increase for the second 6 months.
You can't do that.
I'm just not willing. I'm more sure of a rate increase from the feds
Yeah,
than I am of a rate increase for the nursing home.
right.
Let's just leave it that way.
Well,
In my judgment.
I tend to agree with that.
Me too.
I mean, the feds have a
Printing press.
Well, they love print press, but the policy of deportation is.
Well, the
gonna
other,
happen, so they're gonna have to put resources towards that.
The other
They put
thing is that-
resources
No
towards
question about it.
it's a comparative rate. And we can see other facilities that manage ICE inmates and the rates that they're getting and feel the rates that we're putting down are fair in comparison.
Which frankly, whether you agree with the policy or not, the bottom line is the policy is gonna exist and we need to take advantage of it so we can save our own property tax payers some money.
I like
So-
that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, so, well, frankly, it's just, I mean, so do I. So, Raymond,
We
based on
can't
the
do it all, the
caps,
state has to do their part.
yeah, I know, we can,
Well, we hope so.
we'll see what, I mean, we're not gonna know that answer until June. We do that. We're gonna be-
Education
we're gonna-
trust fund keeps
we'll be-
increasing.
Yeah, we'll be halfway through our budget before we even know what the state's gonna do to us. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Right? We operate on a calendar year basis. By the time the state gets their act together by June, we'll have already operated for 6 months.
Well, but then we won't even know
Well, yeah.
because you know, the deals that are cut and the things
Right.
that are put in with a committee and conference. And then there's a vote, then DHHS, who we mostly deal with. It takes them a month or two to shake out exactly what the legislature did to them.
Right?
And I don't mean that offensively, I mean,
No.
that's just a fact of
It's
life.
just the way it works.
It's the way it works. It's just the way it works.
The biggest budget.
Oh, yeah. So I'm assuming, Raymond, that the target that we had given you initially are around, roughly around 4%, because we're still waiting to get some of those numbers from the cities in terms of the cap. Where are we with that?
Exactly what you've directed me to have it as,
Okay. Okay.
about 4.001,
Oh, one.
so you might as well call it 4%.
Okay.
Not 4.1,
No, no,
4.01,
Right, so 4%.
with a CIP of 3.5, so I'm only allowing 0.5% for growth. And anybody that knows anything understands that growth's a whole hell of a lot more than 0.5%. But, you know, I do as I've been instructed.
How much more do you think it is? I don't, I hate leaving money on the table for the municipalities, because when you leave the money on the table for the municipalities, they're gonna spend it. It's not like the taxpayers are gonna get it back. I'm concerned about the cash position of the county more than anything at this point, because the last 4 or 5 years, we've left millions and millions and millions of dollars with the municipalities. Millions. I ain't talking about nickels and dimes, okay?
So what's the CPI that you're basing it on?
I just looked 3.5.
Oh, this,
I thought it was 2.9 and 2.8.
Well, it
No, 2.5
used to
is what
be,
they paid Social Security for last year.
I thought, that's what I. thought it was like
2.5 is
2.6
the
or
number.
something.
but they're determined
different
totally,
one, yeah.
they're determined totally differently.
So,
Right.
I think growth is a lot higher than that percent. It could be as high as 2%.
Right?
Which would put the cap, put the cities up around 5.5%.
5.5%. Do we have any idea what the cities are doing right now? Has anybody-
I only know Somersworth, and that's coincidentally, and when I, did it out, it was about 3.9. So we're right about, we're right there. That's what they allocated for the county based on their immediate. He said, I just did it last week,
Right,
just to figure out where we were at the half-year mark.
Yeah.
So that's what I was told.
okay. It is what it is. So we have to pay these people. That's the other thing that's going on here. We've just gone, I mean, inflation is eating everybody alive the last few years, and our staff's not immune to that. Taxpayers aren't immune to it. Nobody's immune to it. So, but in order to meet our mission, we gotta pay them. We can't pay these people. You know, if they can get a job at Chick-fil-A more than what we're paying them, that doesn't make much sense. So, well, we've made those adjustments in the union contracts. The compensation line, Raymond, is it in there?
Everything's in there, sir.
All right, so. What's your, I mean, I don't know, I don't have a, I mean, four to me, it's, I think Ray's right, and I think Robert's right, I think that we're leaving some money on the table again, but I'm not quite sure we should go any higher than that. And get, I think we ought to bank on the revenue. If we can get the revenue, then we'll be fine. If we don't get the revenue, and depending on what the legislature does, we'll have to call the delegation back and adjust the rate. That's all we're gonna have to do here. There's nothing else to do. There's no other avenue available to us. Unless there's something specific you wanna get rid of in the budget, and I just don't
The
know.
budget's pretty tight as it is.
I don't know, I mean, we gave up 15 more positions, there's just, I don't know what else to do.
I think it's a lean budget. Most of the departments that came in were flat or even
Right.
decreased.
Yeah.
Right,
So really, the
There's no way.
increase is really, we've got to pay our employees, which are,
Right.
what, 80% of the budget is employees. So that's where it's coming from. So I think it's a good budget, which I certainly can support.
Where's our laundry list? You know, where are we at on the fixing, different things, like the
so that's all
DAG?
capital, yeah, that's all capital stuff, Joe.
But still, I
But it
mean, some of
doesn't-
that stuff was designated for the regular budget.
Right, there was,
We've added a couple of things into the regular budget that was on the, that was cut out, in the compromise, things like the stuff for the sheriff's department's added in, and as we mentioned, one
Well,
of
the
the
delegation
sheriff's
was that.
budget. Plus, we also understand that with the money that was put in, it's gonna take us some period of time to spend that money. And, I mean, we're in a position now where, we did get those plow trucks, or I don't know that we actually physically have them, but they're ready to go.
Yeah, next week.
And, the sewer projects we've, locked in with the vendor, and they've begun some preliminary work in reviewing, certain things so that they can come in and force and get it done. I forget, Dougie, what was the exact number of days that they anticipate it's gonna take for them to do it once they start?
About 3 weeks.
Okay, and we have gone out to bid on the roof. Diane, did get the roofing. We have gotten a response from Gopher that says they've got everything that they need from us. So now it's just a matter, and we went out to bid on the roof, you guys awarded the bid. We got a signed contract with the vendor, we sent the contract to Gopher, and Gopher acknowledged they received the contract.
I think they were out, so I haven't received.
Oh, I did.
anything. You did?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep, I received an email from them saying, okay, you're all set, if there's anything else, we'll let you know.
I did.
I'll forward it to you, I just presumed you got it, so, I'll forward it to you.
what we can do, Joe, starting next month,
But those are two separate items.
right, I don't mean, right.
I mean, the fact of
The bonding piece.
the bonding piece does have nothing to do
With the budget,
with the operating budget.
right, except for the interest payment we're gonna make.
Yeah.
So, what we can do, Joe, is next month, we'll have Doug come in, we'll look at those list of projects, we'll get some kind of time frame from Doug, because, you can't do them all at once, we've only got a limited staff. So we'll look at those list of projects and we'll figure out, working with Doug and with Raymond, what we think, how quickly we can get certain things done, like.
The critical items are underway.
Right, the critical stuff, right.
Critical, I mean, the things that we're worried about, a disastrous outcome if they're not done immediately, are underway. But, I mean, each one of those items, even though we bid them out, depend on county staff
Right.
to supervise, and also depends on the weather. I mean, you can't do the type of roof that we're talking about in
5 degrees.
in under 2 feet of snow.
Right.
Although we haven't had that, I'd hate the thought of starting a job and then getting a nor'easter that, ruins the thing halfway through. So, I mean, we also understand all those things. Had we gotten earlier approval, those jobs probably could have been done by now, but we didn't. So, we're operating off the timetable that we have.
Right.
And so we're working on those things.
So Doug, you good with doing that in a couple of weeks?
Yes.
Okay, we'll come in,
Yeah.
we'll look at the whole
Make a
list,
presentation.
and we'll have some idea.
Yeah, I'd like to go over it with you, Doug, you want?
Yep.
But, I mean, Doug's worked with, DNI to keep us informed about the stuff that's going on. So we're working diligently on doing these things. Also, and I mean this in the most affectionate way, Doug, he can't afford to lose any more hair over these projects.
Peter?
What are they talking about anyway?
So I mean, he can only do what he can only supervise and ensure that things are done properly with what he can do. I mean, we can't have 10 vendors working at the same time.
Not be supervised by one person anyway.
Well, plus then doing your other
Plus, you gotta
job.
do the other work too.
You know, I mean,
Exactly.
these are all things that aren't built into somebody's job.
Right.
Hey Doug, can you send me those load, numbers that, you promised me?
Yes, sir.
Cause
I can email those to you.
Well, next week I gotta sit down with them to
Okay.
see what they can do for us.
Yeah, I saw an email from, I got one from Unitil for something completely unrelated, but I do have the, electrical metering.
Oh,
I did get the results from them.
yeah, the
Yeah.
actual loads throughout the day.
Usage, yeah.
That's
Well,
fine.
I think if, I know social security was a 2.5, so for 2.5 there, we got 1.5 in terms of growth, which I think I agree with Rob, but we're gonna have to probably, and we're probably gonna have at least 2% growth. So, 4% is probably a good target to shoot for, I don't think. I mean, I don't see how you can do it any other way. You know, you're gonna rely on this revenue. I don't know what else, there's nothing else to do, but unless there's something specific at this point that the two commissioners are interested in abolishing, because to me, you either have to cut out whole,
Pretty lean as it is.
you gotta cut out whole programs if you're gonna cut it any more than that, you're gonna have to give it something in its entirety. One thing I learned a long time ago, and I'm gonna share this with you, especially for the new batch. I can't stand when the government turns around, when the governor or the executive branch of government says to everybody, cut everybody back 5%.
5%.
That is the most ridiculous thing in the world you can do, because you end up doing 300 things poorly. You end up doing things poorly. You're better off to cut out one whole program and get rid of it than you ought to have everybody suffer with a 5% cut as an example. And because 80% of our budget's labor related, the only way to really, you just have to eliminate. You gotta get rid of something wholesale. You just gotta get rid of something. And everything that we've done in the county historically, there was reasons for it. So if you get rid of something over here, what ends up happening is that it shows up over here. Because everything that we've done here in terms of every one of these programs, I don't care which one it is, has a 4 to 10 to 1 savings to the property tax. That analysis has been made over and over and over again. So when you go to get rid of something, whatever it is, and I'm not defending the government, what I'm saying is it's being smart on government. If you get eliminated, understand that it's gonna rear its head over here. Because that's the reason why we did it in the beginning. So I don't have anything that I can think of in the budget that wouldn't cost us more somewhere else long term. Because county has had a long history of trying to do everything as efficiently as possible. So at this point, it's gonna be you and Sean and myself that are gonna have to determine by the 8th, this budget has to be put out and in the hands of the municipalities by the 15th. Okay? So we're gonna have to craft a budget message. You and myself, okay? Regarding what it is we're doing.
By January 15th, right?
They have to have it in their hands, and this poor girl we only got one person doing this, so we gotta put all this together, it takes time. So we need to talk about this, okay, ourselves here, figure out, I mean, I never like tax increases, but the bottom line is, I don't see where we have any choice, and I don't know what else to get rid of. If you're asking me, there's nothing, there's only, if we were gonna try to get rid of something here, it would have to be something that we're not statutorily obligated to provide,
That's
okay?
exactly right.
And there's not much of that in the
And
budget.
there's not much of that. Okay, those are the first things that would go, in my opinion, those things that we're not required to do by law. Okay,
No,
and there's a few of them.
no offense, Mr. Chairman, but a number of those things that we're not required to do by law are things that we do that save the municipalities
Money,
a ton of money,
correct, you're right,
especially the towns.
yep, for sure. I can name 3 or 4 of them right off the bat, I won't do it, because I don't wanna send a ripple to the government. I mentioned them, but I do know what they are. I can certainly discuss them because it's personnel related and all of them. I can discuss that with you through the executive session. But, I don't see that there's a lot of room there. We've already, whatever room that was there, we've already taken, which is the 15 positions. And because those directly, we didn't want to do anything that would directly affect quality of care. And there was very little room in the jail. The way.
That's a question I got right now. What's the max capacity for ICE inmates?
Well, it's not necessarily, we don't have a max capacity for ICE inmates. We keep ICE inmates with the rest of the population. Our classification is such that if you're a high, or a medium, high, or medium.
Yeah, we had to separate the.
Yeah, so we don't house low detainees. Everybody else I can house together. Your behavior indicates what your classification is. I have, I enter in 495 inmates can be housed at the Department of Corrections. Now, when I say that, I say that because the questions that I've been asked are, if you had to, how many can you house there? That has to be literally a perfect storm of the right inmates. I have to have the right amount of inmates that are protective custody, and I don't mean PC statute where we keep them for 24 hours. I mean, someone who is providing information to the US government and they need to be kept separate. I'm talking about needing to have the right amount of sex offenders inside my facility, and then having keep separates that can be kept in the same place. And all of that is like a house of cards, because the first time somebody that has a keep separate has a fight with somebody that we didn't know had a problem, then we got to find another housing unit for them after they go through the housing process. So we, when we talk to ICE, I say to them that I can take some additional inmates with some notice, because I have to adjust my housing plan. And one of the great things that we did back in, I can't remember, 2014 maybe, we put up another wall in one of our housing units. And the reason why we did that is because we wanted additional housing. And that allowed me to have another place where I could put individuals. Our classification department has grown very skilled at being able to take the housing units and flip-flop them based off of the need. So at one point, we had all of our protective custody offenders or our sex offenders in a smaller housing unit. In the state of New Hampshire, and based off of the need for primarily our US Marshals, we flip-flopped the little unit of J with the big unit of J, and we put all of our workers in the little unit of J because we had more of a need for sex offenders. So when it comes to being able to house specific individuals, ICE, for example, or US Marshals, we don't have a hard number. We say, listen, can we work with you? Because we want to be able to accommodate what your needs are, but I might not be able to do it like that. It's going to take a little bit of logistics on our end. And so, right now we have 72 ICE detainees in custody right now. And if they were to call us up and say, hey, we've got 9 coming into custody, they're all part of a child sex ring bust that we made, I'd be like, yeah, fantastic. Bring them in, we can take them. If they were to say, we have a bunch of gang affiliation, they're all high custody offenders, I would say, okay, let me see what the gangs are. Let me see what the mix of existing security threat groups are to see how we can accommodate that request. So it's really hard to say what my max number for ICE is or my max number for the US Marshals are. The only thing that's reliable, no kidding, is that I'm probably gonna have somewhere in the vicinity of 20 sentenced inmates, and I'm gonna have somewhere in the vicinity of 90 pretrial inmates. That's what
Of our
is of our own. That's what is consistent numbers, but it just kind of fluctuates. It depends on, the US Marshals. Every once in a while, I'll get a call at like 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, listen, we're gonna be going out to do a roundup. Don't tell anybody, but we may need 7 beds tomorrow. And that's with the US Marshal Service. Now, the US Marshal Service is one of the main reasons why we were able to build that. They helped us a tremendous amount back in
Yeah.
2000. And so I don't say no to them. I don't say no to the US Marshal Service for the District of New Hampshire, because that is the longest standing partnership that we have. Those are the instructions that I've been given, and I'll follow those instructions. But when it comes to immigration and customs enforcement, we talk to them on a daily basis. I talk to the assistant field office director, sometimes the field office director, and the deputy deportation and detention officer, almost on a daily basis, to say, how can we accommodate the needs that you have? You hinted on me having a conversation with some of them about when we were talking about rate increases. I spoke to them and I said, hey, listen, we've submitted the paperwork. I just want to make sure that you've received the paperwork and it's in front of the people that it's supposed to be. They said, yes, absolutely. I called them on New Year's Eve, and they said, honestly, it's probably not gonna get a hard look until after the new year, and then they're waiting to see what's gonna happen on January 20th.
Right, you gotta wait for the new administration to
Yep.
get sworn in and get going. So I think the April 1st, projection is probably a legitimate one. They're not gonna be able to turn that ship on a dime. It's gonna take them some time. I don't care what, it doesn't make a difference what the president does. It takes time for bureaucracies to do what they need to do to make that happen.
But as requested, I will
Right.
continually check in with them to see what the status is. Because if we can get it rolling quicker, then that's a benefit to everybody.
So what you said to decipher is this is a crapshoot.
Well, I think that it's a fact-based or an operational history-based assessment.
Right.
Is that they have openly discussed that they think that we should ask for a rate increase. They have openly said that if you have beds, we'll do what we can to fill them for you. And so based off of that, the assessments that we have made, I think are responsible assessments, and marks that I think that we can hit.
I'm comfortable with, I think that we're gonna hit them, because just do the math. All you gotta do is just do the math. There's 600,000 they're going after in the beginning. 600,000, you know how many people that is? Okay, and so for us to pick up
Half
another
the
Half
state
as
of
big
New
as New
Hampshire.
Hampshire.
yeah, right, that's the first round. They're looking at 1.4 million, which is the population of the state of Maine that they're gonna try to deport, okay? So these facilities are on every street corner, okay? They just don't exist. There's a market involved with this stuff. It's just as much a business decision as anything else. And for us to budget for 120 additional ICE inmates, I don't think that's unreasonable based on the fact that there's gonna be 600,000 in the first round they're gonna try to deport. They can't put them in military bases, okay? So where are they gonna put them? They're gonna go to the existing contracts they have with existing facilities around the country.
That's the first place.
That's the first place they're gonna go, which is us. So I'm pretty comfortable with it, and I just don't know what else we're gonna get rid of. I mean, that's a decision that you with me are gonna have to make. If you wanna, now, we might get 2, 3 months, 4 months into the deal and see what the terrain is, and we may have to make some adjustments, but the adjustments that would get made, it just depends on what we're looking at. We don't, the Marines have an old saying, terrain governs. How are you gonna fight this war? Well, the terrain governs. Are we at sea? Are we in the mountains? Are we in the desert? Where are we? And we don't know what that terrain is until we get there.
I was Air Force, it's 40,000 feet.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
We don't care.
Right. So that's right. You can bomb it all.
On the shit out of it.
Jeez. Anyway, so are you guys Sean, and Joe, are you comfortable with this thing now at this point? Sure. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to get closer to zero, but,
How are you gonna do that?
well, we gotta look deep into the budget. Like, for example, like, we showed, what, $100,000 for income for the court jester. We
Yeah.
pay 140. That's
Right.
not very cost effective.
Yeah.
For having a, it seems so they could raise their prices,
We have already raised the prices for January first.
oh, you have?
Yeah.
And what's that?
I'm not sure how much more it'll generate, but I think one of the things we have to be clear is the court jester also provides a service for the court that pays us over $600,000 a year in rent. And that was always part of the deal with the court, that it's easier for them to provide lunches for juries downstairs. And that's part of what makes us an attractive place to be. I don't wanna run there's always the thing about running the risk of, oh, great, we save $40,000 and we lose a $600,000 a year tenant. And what else are we gonna do with that area? I mean, you got courtrooms, what are you gonna do with courtrooms? So there's a sacrifice there, but if you wanna,
Raise it.
no, if you wanna make real sacrifices, and cut big money out,
Right,
stop dispatching.
yeah.
Tell the towns to dispatch for themselves.
Either that or get the cities to buy on to our dispatch, which is very difficult to do, but we can, that seems so, that's a.
I can tell you though, in 2010, when we went through the Tea Party revolution, and the delegation cut the bottom line of the budget, during that time, I called a meeting for all the municipalities. We had a meeting, Robert was there, we had a meeting with all the municipalities, mayors, selectmen of all the towns, chairmans, the town managers, everybody came, we sat downstairs. And we went through a process, we had Primex act as a facilitator, we put everything up on the board, everything, every service that the municipalities provided, what the county provided, and say, which government is best suited to provide these services that were existing at the time. We put them all up on the board. We came up with a list. Nothing's changed. That list still exists. There was no political will by anybody to move things around between us. We could have saved millions and millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. But nobody had the political will to do it. The towns didn't have the political will. Okay. The county commissioners had the political will, but nobody else. They all said, no. And this is what you're gonna run into when you try to get rid of something here. Ray said it best, a lot of these things that we do, the bigger impact's gonna be on the towns. It's not gonna be on the cities. The cities have their own dispatch services. They don't need the county.
And they don't want it.
They don't wanna pay for it.
They know they can save money, but they don't wanna change.
No, they don't wanna
We've
change.
offered that year after year after year,
They don't
and
want it.
they don't wanna change, and we have no control over that. We only have control over what we spend. We don't have
Right.
control over what they spend or what they do with their money.
Right.
So
And
how, let me ask you this, how does 9/11, how does that work with the cities versus the towns?
They tied in with a different, they have a different trunk line, that's all.
it just goes 9/11 and they ask
9/11
where you are and
comes
they
in.
pass it
Goes
off
to
to.
Concord or Concord and,
There's two facilities.
there's two,
one in
right?
Concord.
The cities,
what's the other one, Nashua?
No, it's
Okay.
more.
Oh, the one up north? Yeah, all I know is you dial 911, you get one of those people, they say, what's your name?
so when they dial 911 in the city.
Yeah.
It doesn't go through our dispatch.
No.
No, it goes direct.
They have their own
Correct.
dispatch. Which has always been an issue with the county because the cities are paying 56 or 58% of the cost of the county. The three cities are, and they run their own dispatch centers. They pay for their own dispatch centers. Okay, so they're subsidizing the towns. Okay, specifically in that particular area. So the towns really should pay for their own dispatch, but we had a theory. The theory is that we would regionalize as many services as possible because it all comes from the same pocketbook. It comes from the property taxpayer. It's all coming from the same guy or gal, okay? So what we try to do is say, okay, well, let's take these services that we need, who's best suited to provide them. dispatch was one of those services that was best done on a regional basis. However, they ignored a lot of it in the end. Frankly, there should only be one dispatch center in Strafford County for everybody.
True.
For all the cities, everybody, one dispatch center. You go to counties down south, just any one of them, pick any county down south, they have countywide dispatch center for everybody, okay? Next thing they have is in law enforcement,
And fire department,
fire department, same way, absolutely. We have, if you have a heart attack in the northern part of this county, your likelihood of survival is next to zero. It's a 20-minute, 25-minute run for an ambulance to get to somebody, okay? Part of that program we put together 15 years ago was to have countywide fire departments where your response time was 8 minutes or less.
But the bottom line is, we have no control over how they spend their money.
Right,
We only have control over how
What we
we
spend.
spend our money.
right.
So therefore, when we're talking about dispatch, where absolutely it would be more efficient if the county dispatched for everyone. We don't have control over making that happen.
Right.
The only thing we have control over is stopping dispatch for the people that we dispatch for. That we have control over because it's our expenditure. You wanna save, a big hunk of money, let Farmington dispatch for itself, or, let them figure out how to pay for it. And I don't think that anybody would think that that's in Farmington or any other community's best interest,
But they could.
but they could.
We've had that conversation in Rollins many times.
Right.
About getting out
It's just
there.
not cost effective.
No,
It's not cost
not cost
effective.
effective, that's.
No,
It's absolutely
No,
not.
I've been on the other end of that, so I know how.
Again, you're right back to the same argument I made.
do we pay
20 minutes
more
ago.
as a resident in Rollinsford by doing it ourselves, or do we
Right.
pay less by letting the county do it?
Oh, there's no question you pay less.
So I mean, that's what we're looking at. So
Is the
you-
county doing a good job? Absolutely.
So
Yeah, so-
why would you wanna cut it?
Well,
Why else do you wanna cut it?
No, he's not-
I'm
he's
not,
saying.
I'm not suggesting.
No, no.
All I'm
We're not
saying
required,
is,
we're not required by law.
we're not required by law to run a dispatch center.
I realize that.
So that's one of the things that I brought up,
Right.
that, if we're taking hard looks at things, maybe we should start at things we're not required to do.
That's the first thing you.
Well,
that's the
my
first
point
thing
is
you
at
do.
town meeting, we've talked about the cuts and stuff and the services that the county provides for us, and the fact that we can't do it better, so that we will.
They're age-old arguments.
Yeah.
These arguments have been around for a long, long time. They're
That's
arguing
just
about
one
this
thing.
stuff in the 1970s when I was on the delegation. Nothing has changed. The arguments are all the same. Regionally, when you rely on a property tax, you're better off to do things regionally than you are try to do them as individual communities. But everybody wants their own little fire chief and their own little fiefdoms and their own little police departments and their own. Let me give you another example quickly. Detective services. Okay? Some cities have detective services. Some cities don't even have a police department. Some towns don't even have they don't even have a police
New
department.
Durham
Okay?
doesn't have a police
They don't
department.
have a police department. So what happens? You have to ask yourself, what happens if somebody commits a major crime there, right? Well, if you had a detective division, say, in the sheriff's department or in some other entity, okay, that hired detectives that work full-time on major crimes, okay? Could be run out of the county attorney's office, as an example. Would that save everybody money? Sure, absolutely. Because Rochester has its own division, Somerville has its own division, Dover has its own division. I mean, there's all kinds of things. We put all those things up on the board, okay? There was no political will for it, none. They wouldn't accept it. I'll tell you a quick story. This is really interesting. When Roland Rovers was mayor of Rochester and I was mayor of Dover, we both had to build brand new wastewater treatment plants. Okay, the city of Dover's got to spend $32 million for a new wastewater treatment plant. Rochester was looking to spend about 26 million for a new wastewater treatment plant at the time. So I sat in here with Roland, because we were both county commissioners and both mayors at the same time. I said, we should have one regional sewer plant. Okay? Dover's closest to the ocean. Have Rochester pump their sewage to Dover, and we'll build a plant in Dover big enough to handle it. And at the time, Dover's wastewater treatment plant was receiving about 2.2 million gallons of sewage. It was designed to hold almost 4 million. Okay, so we could have taken Rochester's sewage real easy. And I hired a consultant at the time to work with me and Roberge, and we worked on a plan to do that. It was gonna save millions and millions and millions of dollars, not only in the capital investment initially, but for its operation, long term. Because we had so many more people paying sewer bills, okay? So many more people in the system paying. And so Rovers and I pitched it. I said, no one cares about where the sewage goes. Right? I was wrong. They all cared about where the sewage went. Okay, Rochester said, absolutely not. We're gonna have our own wastewater treatment plant. I go, you actually, I went to city council meeting, Bill Rovers, I go, you actually care about where your sewage goes? Why do you care if we can save millions of dollars? Millions, I'm not talking about nickels and dimes. I'm not talking about saving $100,000. We're talking about the time it was like, had a savings over the life of the plant was $120 million over the life of the plant. They still said no to sewage. Okay, so I share that story with you because I learned a lesson back then. We can put all the plans we want up on the board, but then do you have the political will? Does the political will exist to do it? And that's gonna be the issue what we have here in this budget, no matter what you've got on, it's gonna have it has a back effect on it. And it rears its head. Well, we wouldn't have done it in the beginning. We wouldn't have done it. We did it for reasons. So the bottom line is you and I and you are gonna sign this budget. Now, I can't help the fact that the law says it has to be out by the 15th and in their hands. You get sworn in on the 8th, okay? So bottom line is, unless you have something specific, I mean, you want to adjust the court jester's revenue. Let me tell you a little bit about the history on that. We privatized that at least 3 times since I've been here. That operation. Went to the private sector and says, run this. Within 1 year, they went belly up. They went belly up because they couldn't charge enough. Because it's a small operation. It's a tiny operation. You have a captured audience out here, but it's not big enough.
And the other problem is that when you're busy, you need more than one person. But you
Right.
never know when you're gonna be busy because you never know when the jury, you're gonna have a
Right.
jury. Now, they'll schedule something for a jury trial, and I bet you, I wish Emily was here, but I bet you a third to a half of the time, there's a plea the day before the thing goes to trial. So you
Right.
think, well, I'm gonna have a jury, so I'm gonna get a second person here to help me, if you can ever find anybody
Right.
like that. And then you bring them in and you're paying them and there's no jury. And so, these are the problems or these are the dilemmas, that have been talked about year after year after year for that place. As a specific example.
Right, we borrow when they get busy, and we know they're gonna get busy, we call people down from the registry of deeds. They come down and cook and help the cafeteria. We take them out of the registry of deeds department. bring them-
Well, I can't bring them from Riverside because we cut so many positions
Right.
out of Riverside. I can't bring them from Hyder. I only have one person.
We have one person.
I don't have enough.
You don't have
I
enough.
enough over there.
We don't have enough cooks over at the gym. So, over the years, we've cut these positions, like these 15 that we've cut out of this budget, asking everybody to do more stuff than what they were doing. And then we question about why we can't spare somebody we have no spares.
Right,
Since the first budget cut, by the delegation, was it 10 years ago,
yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
2010.
and now we've probably cut 80 positions.
80 positions.
We talk about succession planning and it's really hard to have succession planning when you don't have backups to
Succeeded too.
to train
Yeah.
to do other things. I'm lucky at Riverside to have a second licensed administrator, D Brown, but that came at the expense of having someone that managed all of our communicable diseases like COVID and the flu and so I had to split that job up to other people. So, I mean, we didn't bring Dion as a new
Spare.
new person. We brought her on to replace somebody that left and thought that was a more efficient use of time, considering, I'm not gonna be here forever.
Right. Well, anyway, I mean, I don't know if you've got anything else to offer with it. The court jester thing has always been a moving target. Like I said, we privatized it 3 times, it did not work. If you wanna raise the price of.
Well, we have next week, so, I mean.
Right, we got next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll
Think
have
about
this
something
week to
else.
think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something else, if you can think of something, if you can think of something else you wanna get rid of. But we need to wholesale get rid of something if you're gonna get rid of it. This 5% of baloney and this other 0, and most of the budgets are flat anyway. And and we have to pay people. We've agreed we had to raise the wages in the jail. There's no way you're gonna get this revenue right here, this $12 million of revenue, unless we start hiring some help over there.
You're absolutely
You
right.
gotta have help to run these places. And the staff over there is burnt out. They've been burnt out now for more than almost 2 years. They've been burnt out as a result of COVID, the fallout from COVID. The overtime that they're forced to pay, they're forced into overtime. Mandatory overtime. The staff is burnt out. We've lost a lot of good officers as a result of it. Some of our officers were in their 50s. It's one thing when someone's in their 20s and you force them into overtime. When they're 50s and 60s, they're saying, I don't want, especially when they can retire. They're done.
That's just a word, the retirement stuff.
Yeah.
You think you can.
Well, you know, but they're not gonna be forced into overtime, Joe. That's the point. They're not we've had a bunch of officers leave and go take jobs in the private sector doing other things, not being a correctional officer, just being maintenance guys or whatever, and gals going to work at Walmart because they're not forced to spend their whole lives working in the jail, where they're gonna work for 22, 23 bucks an hour and get shanked. So, you know.
We just had a guy retire, and he retired because he didn't want to work the forced overtime. He said he wanted to stay. He said if I could get off the forced overtime list, I'd still help with overtime, but he left so he could go drive a tow truck.
Right. We had another guy went to work for a hotel.
Yep.
There's no forced overtime.
Well, 22,000 jobs that we're short in the state right now.
So, but that's the point, Joe. The point is, if you're 22,000 jobs short and you've got to pay people,
Wow.
and we have to pay them to meet the market demand, the only place that money's coming from is the property tax. That's just the way it is. So,
Well, we could get the state to fund the
yeah,
retirement system
Right.
that they used to.
that they used to.
We
Right.
could save all that retirement money.
That's not gonna happen.
You know,
I'm just offering
Yeah.
suggestions
Unless
of
it's-
things that we're taking away from us.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that
You
we
get rid
would,
Absolutely.
the state encouraged us to join the state retirement system by saying they'd pay all the non-employee cost of it, and then it kept cutting it down to nothing.
you could get rid of the visitation program, but right now, we're not statutorily required to run it, but there is a value to running it because of domestic violence. 60% of the cases that the local PDs respond to is domestic violence. 60%. You get rid of the visitation program, that's gonna increase. That's gonna have a direct impact on local PDs
Well, and the jail.
and the jail, right? Because the people are gonna go back to jail, they're gonna be more domestic violence calls. Everybody thinks that when the police go on these calls, you know, that they take care of it. Well, they don't take care of it. They got these people for a half an hour, 45 minutes. They drop them off over here at the county jail and say, it's your problem now. Okay, and you need staff over there to handle that, but but the point being is the visitation program is another thing we don't have to do by statute. Okay, we're not required to run one, we run one because we see the value in keeping the cost down to the local communities. Because they're gonna be on more calls. The biggest half those domestic calls are caused during the transfer, because children are used as weapons between husbands and wives, okay? And that's where the visitation center has value, because you prevent that conflict from taking place. It also ties up a ton of court time, because when they can't see their kids, one spouse or the other, they file a petition in court because the other spouse is not meeting the requirements of the divorce decree, and we tie the courts up even longer, okay? And one of the things the mediation sessions try to do in court is to use the visitation center as a neutral zone for those things. We wouldn't have run one. When we cut it out, we cut that out of the budget. Back 10 years ago, Ray, 8 years ago, we cut it out. 10 years ago. We cut the program out. We said, we're not gonna do it, let the state pay for it. In 1 week, the judges upstairs were sitting here where the county commissioner is saying, you can't do this. You're gonna flood our docket, okay? We're gonna have too much police time tied up with it. You've got to restore it. And at the time, they just opened up another grant opportunity, which we took advantage of because the feds saw the value in it. So we lived off it for a few years, got a federal grant, we reopened the place, okay? They had a ton of rules with that, okay? Tons of rules that we had to meet. It couldn't be in the county courthouse. I wanted it here. Can't have it at the county courthouse. Gotta have law enforcement coverage. You have to have we had to meet all these rules. We had to have all kinds of things. And we did it because the feds paid for it.
The bottom line is, Mr. Chairman, we presented everything you know, the 8th of January is the day in which we
Right.
can debate all of these things.
Yeah, you're right. You guys, you guys gonna need some time to think about what you wanna do.
So you have a week
You got a week to think about it.
after all the weeks that we've spent going over
All the
each and
weeks
every
going
budget.
over it anyway. And you've got all the information available, all the backups there. These things are done now, right? All the books are done? So you can take
Yeah,
them
the
home
books
if you
are all
want.
complete,
You can
everything's,
study them, just don't leave them at home, bring them back in. Because if somebody.
When's your next meeting?
Our next meeting, well, for you guys is Wednesday, for the swearing in. And then, we will have to sign we'll have to have a budget message ready to go. I'll have ready to ship a draft to you guys on it. I mean, you participated in the process. Whatever changes we're gonna make, we gotta make that day. Okay, if we're gonna make any.
cause we need,
They need time,
Janet needs a few days
right?
to put it into a booklet to be sent out to the
To the
delegation.
delegation and to the cities.
Because we don't send that out into a private entity like Dover does,
Right.
or Somersworth does, or
Right.
Rochester does.
Yeah.
We do
Contractors
it,
doing it.
we do it in-house,
You print it in-house.
we print it in-house.
Yeah.
Saves a ton of money.
Pile of money, yeah. So there is gonna be one meeting, of the existing board. I gotta talk to my colleagues about this. We have to have it probably at the beginning of the week. We need her we need to close out the final year. We've got a bunch of minutes that we've got to approve,
Yeah.
okay? And review.
While we're here, Mr. Chairman, could you just begin by signing these two documents, which you guys have to sign them because that then allows these two gentlemen to be on the checking
On the checking
accounts.
accounts, yeah.
So the three current commissioners have to agree to put these two gentlemen on.
And then next Wednesday, after you're sworn in, I'll have the actual bank signature cards for
For everybody.
all three of you to sign. Pam will have to sign
Yeah,
too,
we gotta.
And
we
Janet,
got a bunch
yeah.
of stuff we gotta do for banking.
yes,
So,
because the first checks, the
The
next
first-
checks go out on Thursday.
You can have those. Sitting here listening to you guys talk, of course, I'm familiar with all this and being chair for 14 years, but I'm reminded back when I was in the Marine Corps, from 1956 to 1958, the sergeant, one day he said to us, after doing so much for so long with so little, eventually you'll be able to do everything with nothing.
there you go.
That was 60 years ago.
You're a Marine.
All right, so we will have, I guess I talked to my colleagues
Yeah.
about what the schedule will allow for them to come in. We'll be here, we'll only be coming in for like 5 minutes, maybe 10 at the most, just to have them authorized to approve the minutes of not only the past minutes, but today's minutes, okay? And I mean, you guys don't have to come to that. I mean, it's not gonna last. I don't see us, we're not gonna be talking about any of this stuff. This stuff's done. I'm gonna leave that up to you on the 8th, okay?
And we do need a non-public session
Right.
now.
Yeah.
For you to
Yeah,
execute some stuff
okay,
based
so,
on your last non-public session.
right. All right, so we got any of the old or new business that needs to be discussed? Any
Yes,
questions
that's
or
correct.
comments from the public? We don't have anybody out there, right?
None.
I'm the only member of the public.
No, you're legislative.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm not.
You're not public.
Chair will entertain the motion, then we go into non-public session. Like discuss personnel, the move and second, roll call, Commissioner Watson, Commissioner Rolo, myself, yes, vote unanimous, the commission meeting with 9 to executive session.